joined now by Kevin Kugler, broadcaster for Fox and Westwood One, and I think everyone does anyone not send you a paycheck, Kevin?
I'm not hired by the Cleveland Browns, despite the fact that I've done 2 of their games this season. I am not officially paid by the Browns.
Well, my condolences for having to do that. As as we hop right into NFL stuff here, Kevin, you got to see a little bit better game yesterday with Rams Colts. There was no Cleveland Brownsing that for you.
Hey, you know what? We've been very lucky. Every one of our games, all 4 of them, has been decided by a single score this year. So I can't complain about that. You know, this league tends to lean towards the dramatic in a normal week anyway, and we've been really lucky. We haven't had, knock on wood, any of those blowouts yet, although we have Detroit, Cincinnati coming up this weekend, so that could change with the way Detroit's playing right now. But through 4 weeks, we've been pretty lucky with at least competitive games in the fourth quarter. I think that's more than we had at any point last season. We're not going to complain about that.
Googs, were you happily surprised when you were getting this assignment? Like maybe in the preseason you were like, I don't know what the Colts are going to be, but that game obviously ended up being pretty good, and getting ready for it, you had 2 pretty good teams that got into it.
Oh, we were fired up. The Rams really should have been 3-0. I know that should have is not the same thing as is in the NFL, but they played well enough to beat the Eagles the week before, had the 26-7 lead, and we all know what happened after that. The Eagles came back and won, but this was the last of the 4 games that we get assigned in the preseason. So everything else is now assigned week to week. And we were a little bit surprised, frankly, that game got as good as it did. I think the Colts have been one of the nice surprises in the league, and seeing them in person yesterday, I kind of believe in them. I don't know that they're not a Super Bowl winning team, but I do think this is a team that's capable, with the schedule they have in the division they're in, of maybe winning the division and becoming a playoff team, which in Shane Steichen's 3rd year would be a very nice jump, and I would think Colts fans would be very excited about that.
Kevin, my normal partner here, DB, was very high on the Daniel Jones bandwagon going to Indiana. Thought it was a very good signing. I know we all hate to admit when DB is right, but I mean, Daniel Jones looks like a real quarterback now.
Yeah, he had a couple of throws yesterday that I know he'd like back, a couple of errant passes, but every quarterback's going to say that over the course of a season. But I think all in all, he's played very well. He's played he's played controlled football. He's managed what they want to do. And look, you've got one of the 2 most dynamic running backs, not named Saquon Barkley, in the National Football League, and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is a stud. Jonathan Taylor is healthy, and you couple that with an improved defense under defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, and I really do think this Colts team is a team to pay attention to. And again, the division they're in is a very, very winnable division right now for this team.
So when you were just going through the broadcast of that game, I was telling Ravi earlier too before we got on that. Have you ever watched, obviously you're a Nebraska guy too, so you have seen games like this happen before with a certain team, but when it comes to just one team kind of imploding in big moments, I mean, I don't think I've seen the Colts do something like that ever, where there were 3 significant plays where it felt like those 3 plays go differently. There's not a penalty. They have 11 guys on defense for a 90-yard touchdown, or, they don't get one holding call at the very end of the game, that they win that game if one of those plays goes right.
Well, and the worst thing for the Colts is 2 of those 3 plays were on the shoulders of Adonai Mitchell. I mean, you hold the ball like he did across the goal, and a guy who's never scored a touchdown in his 2 years at the NFL. So he's excited to finally get to the goal line, drops the football, and then clearly could not get that out of his system. We showed it over and over again, him pacing behind the huddle, him stomping around on the sidelines. It was one of those things that he couldn't get out of his system. And then he had the hold on the big run to the left side that negated a huge play for the Colts as they were marching down the field and derailed that drive. So it was not his best day. I'm sure he's going to be excited to try to redeem himself next week. But, man, those were some costly plays. And it's something the Colts had happen last year. Jonathan Taylor did a similar thing last year that cost them a touchdown. And now Adonai Mitchell. I understand the celebration and the picture of cross of the goal line with the arm outstretched all by yourself is a really cool picture. But it's a lot cooler if you score a touchdown.
Kevin, the weirdest thing when I'm thinking about that, right, is you hear all these people talk about these one-handed catches and stuff, and they're like, oh, the gloves are so sticky. It's basically, they got glue on their hands basically. And then I see something like Adonai Mitchell, and I was like, those gloves don't seem that sticky. I'm going to be honest with you.
No, exactly. If there could have been a little of that stickiness on those gloves, the Colts would probably be winners today. But instead, the gloves weren't as sticky. And if the gloves don't stick, you must acquit. So apparently they acquitted the Colts from winning that football game. Disappointing for them, but a big win for the Rams, who I think are also pretty good. Those are two good teams, and I think two teams that are going to win a lot of games this year.
I thought it was the Colts, not the Broncos out there. I didn't realize we were going for that.
Well, it's all horses.
They're playing tonight. We'll get to see if they can muster more than 175 yards passing tonight. That'll be a fun thing to see.
Okay, so I'm curious, after you get done with your broadcast, how much of like the rest of the NFL landscape are you able to absorb then on a Sunday, or is it strictly travel right after you get done with that game?
Well, so it depends on where we are and what we're doing. So yesterday, being a West Coast game, we didn't kick until 3:05 Central. And the way SoFi Stadium is set up, they have the giant ribbon board with massive screens that all they do before the game is show Red Zone. So they call it like the Rams Sports Bar or something like that. Anyway, you sit in SoFi and you watch football. So on a West Coast game, I see way more NFL than I do during the course of when I have a noon game and I'm on at the same time as 7 or 8 other games. When you're doing the West Coast, it's a lot more easy to digest those games that are early. And then last night, it was a matter of go to the airport right after the game, get on a flight home, and thank goodness the game went to overtime. I got a ton of Sunday night football last night, so that was really the best of both worlds. Soaring through the night sky at 11 p.m. Central Time, and I still had a little football to watch. That was nice.
Kevin, when you're looking at teams, you kind of mentioned the Broncos there, so it made me think about this. Obviously, I think one of the more disappointing teams compared to what a lot of people had expectations for them coming into the season. Is there a team that either good or bad has surprised you a lot so far in the season? I know we're early, but I feel like the Broncos for me stick out pretty aggressively.
Here, for me, and it's probably because I have some amount of bias because I do the preseason games, but the Houston Texans, especially on the offensive side, that's been a big disappointment. I really expected that Texans offense to be at least a little more proficient, and it has really struggled over the course of I'll say 4 games, because for a good portion of that game yesterday, it was 6-0 and then 12-0. So it wasn't like this was a team that was lighting up the score, but I know they won 26-0, but that's sort of a misleading score with a couple of late touchdowns against the Titans team that's hapless. I'm not surprised by the Titans. They're starting a rookie quarterback and they don't have any pieces around him. So that's a rough situation for Cam Ward. But the Texans have surprised me. This is a team that's won the division the last couple of years. They've won a playoff game each of the last 2 years. To be as inept as they've appeared at times on offense, that's a head scratcher for me. They've got a lot of talent over there, but that offensive line is struggling. And I guess it goes back to the old adage that we all know around here watching football all these years, is that it all starts with the lines. If your line isn't able to dislodge or move anybody across from you, it's going to be a long day for your quarterback, no matter how talented he or your offense is.
Kevin, I want to go to the other side of the ball on a team that's been inept on defense that I think everyone in the free world thought was going to be really good, and maybe they still are. Where is your level of concern on the Ravens defense right now?
Beat me to it. How dare you?
Yeah, I do have some concern. I have some concerns with that whole team right now, and I understand the schedule they've played. I have some concerns with Derrick Henry as a running back. I have some concerns with that defense. Are they starting to show their age across the board? Are they just not meshing where they need to mesh? I don't know how long Lamar Jackson, if he's going to be out at all with that injury that we saw late yesterday. I don't love the vibe around that team right now. 1-3 is hard to overcome. I don't care who you are or where you are. Now, again, the Ravens' biggest benefit is their division right now. Cincinnati is a mess with Jake Browning at quarterback. They're just not able to do anything. Maybe we'll see difference tonight after he's had a good full week and a half in the system. But I don't really feel confident about Cincinnati. I don't feel confident about Cleveland. At some point, Dylan Gabriel is going to be inserted into that starting quarterback job, and I think it's going to be in the next couple of weeks. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are they good? Yeah, they're good. And they'll probably be, 10-7, 11-6. I mean, that's kind of the range they live in these days, it seems like. Is that going to be enough to win the division? Probably, with the Ravens starting 1-3, but you can't rule the Ravens out, even though I have a significant amount of concerns with them, because their division is a very winnable division, even at 1-3 to start.
So the two teams you just mentioned, Texans, Ravens, at this point, which one do you think has a better chance of being able to make a run, get to the postseason?
I think the Ravens do, because I do think there's talent there, and I like their schedule. Look ahead to their schedule after another week or so. There's a 5-game stretch that you can look at and say, yeah, that's a pretty winnable stretch of games for this Ravens team. We were looking at that schedule yesterday, and I really do think there's a chance to get right thanks to the schedule and some of the teams that they have coming up. The Texans, I think, are a better offensive team right now, assuming Lamar Jackson's not healthy. Lamar Jackson's healthy, then the Ravens are the best offensive team of those two that we're talking about. But they can't protect anybody. The Texans' defense is the best of any of the units that we're talking about right now of these two teams. Texans' defense is legit good. They've been good all year long. They just have had no offensive support whatsoever.
Kevin, I'm going to throw a couple hot takes at you. You tell me if I'm crazy.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Let's go.
Number one, we're starting scorching here. Ben Johnson's impact was dramatically overrated in both Detroit and Chicago.
I disagree with that hot take. I think we don't know his impact in Chicago yet.
Okay.
I think we're assuming that it's not going to be great, but there's still holes on that Bears team. They're better. I mean, I saw the Bears 3 or 4 times last year. They're better right now than they were last year. Is it better attributed to Ben Johnson, to the growth of Caleb Williams? I don't know. I don't know that you can say that and I understand the reason for that hot take in the Detroit regard, because they're still really good. And I think he probably was overrated to a certain degree at the end. I think his impact at Detroit was felt more in the establishment of the system and the establishment of confidence for a quarterback that was coming in and wasn't sure what his role was going to be. We look at Jared Goff now and we think, man, Jared Goff, what a great quarterback. He's having great success. And we all have to remember that when he was traded to Detroit, he was seen as a 1-year stopgap. They were going to just use him to start at quarterback that year. And then they were going to go draft somebody in the first round because they had a high draft pick the next year. Well, he was so good they could go get Aiden Hutchinson. They didn't have to have Jared Goff replaced. They signed Jared Goff. He sticks around. And all of a sudden, that offense is clicking. I think a lot of it's Jared Goff, who's really smart. They have a great 1-2 punch at running back. That's a really talented team. Ben Johnson's impact, though, was felt early in establishing that system, getting Jared Goff up to speed. I'm not saying Jared Goff's coaching it, but it's more of a let's get this firm foundation, and then we can keep the foundation in place when you go somewhere else to try to install it there.
All right, hot take number 2.
Let's go.
This one I feel like is less hot, but we're going to try it anyway. The Chargers are no longer a AFC West contender if Joe Alt misses significant time. Hot take.
I'll buy that hot take. I will buy that hot take. Joe Alt's such a big part of what they do. And if he's out for a significant amount of time, you just don't grab those guys on the free agent market. You know, they're not just sitting at home. Like, for example, the Colts went out and picked up Mike Hilton when Kenny Moore went down in their secondary. Is Mike Hilton the same as Kenny Moore? No, but he's a very serviceable guy that you can plug into that nickel spot because he's played under Lou Anarumo in Cincinnati, and he was not hurt. He was just unsigned. He had gone through a camp. He got cut by Miami, which in hindsight probably wasn't a great idea for the Dolphins to cut anybody of any kind of talent. But you look at what he's doing now and moves right into a starting role 6 days in. You can go get a guy like that. There's not a Joe Alt replacement just twiddling his thumbs at home going, well, any minute now I'll have a chance to get out there and play some good football. That guy's not out there. I think that's a huge loss, and it's a huge thing for a quarterback who'd been playing terrific football through the first 3 games and hit that speed bump yesterday. Not a coincidence either that speed bump came at the same time the injury.
All right, final hot take. It may be the hottest one we have, okay?
Oh, my gosh.
There is going to be at least one team that wins fewer than 2 games this year.
Yes, there will be at least one team that wins fewer than 2. I think the Titans are ticketed for
very bad.
2 or fewer season. That's a rough team. That is a rough team. They may be the, yeah, no, he did, and he ought to know. I mean, he's in that locker room every day. We don't even have to wait for a hot take from the media for that. We just ask him, what are we? Oh, we're ass. Okay, great, congratulations. So why come to the games anymore? I think, and I feel bad for him. I think he's talented, but they've given him nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, he has nothing. And, it's never a good sign when your head coach 2 or 3 games into the season says, I'm a play caller, but I'm going to relinquish this play calling to this guy. It's a mess in Tennessee. I feel bad for Cam Ward, but I like that hot take. I think that's a 1-win team waiting to happen.
I feel like we got 3 real candidates: Dolphins, Saints, and Titans. I think we've got some real candidates there. Those are some bad football teams.
We do. Yeah, Miami is on the struggle bus, and the Saints, it doesn't surprise me. I think this is a year where they're just going to try to fight through with whatever they have at quarterback and try to find somebody new next year. The good thing is Kellen Moore's going to basically get a bye in his first year.
So on that same note, I have a take that I'm putting the pot on the water right now, right? I'm trying
to heat
it up.
I'm trying to warm it up. See what I feel about that. But you mentioned Saints, Titans, Dolphins, all pretty bad teams, right? Could the New England Patriots win the AFC East just strictly off their schedule? Obviously they play the Bills on Sunday Night Football next week, but after that they go Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons. They have a tough game against the Bucks. They'll play the Jets, Giants, Bills again, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins. That's not a terrible slate.
No.
And if they get hot, I feel like you could win the AFC East that way.
The only way I would disagree with that take, and I'd turn the stove down a little bit, is if they had shown any ability to beat the Bills recently. If they can beat the Bills you got to split
get one, right?
with
Gotta
Buffalo.
get one.
Yeah, you got to get one.
You don't mean the Panthers or the Bills level? Come on, they put belt to ass yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I do know. I do know that Drake May and the Patriots with that schedule are good enough to sneak into the wild card conversation in the AFC. That's a take I think you can have and be pretty safe on. I like Drake May. First off, I thought he got better and better as last year went on, and I gotta say that schedule is that's a very 10-win feel schedule for the New England Patriots.
So Kevin, let me ask you this: for these teams that are on the struggle bus, maybe won't win 2 games this year. Pretty much all of them need a quarterback, right? Except for the Titans, who we think maybe we like Cam Ward a little bit. We're looking and we go, okay, we think this is going to be a great quarterback draft class. Then you look up, you're like, ooh, Arch Manning, that's a little rough.
You gotta do that, man.
Don't really know what Laura Sellers is doing. Cade Klubnik not looking great. Garrett Nussmeier, don't know if that's going to work.
Dylan Raiola is a year away.
Drew Aller, we're like, what I think people thought was going to be a really, really good draft class with quarterbacks, and that they had this opportunity. All of a sudden they're looking up and they're like, maybe we take a lineman. They've got to be. Yeah. This got to be a nightmare for them.
If you're a team like the New Orleans Saints that's sitting, or look, I would put the Miami Dolphins in this conversation if they change coaches, because that whole offense was built around Tua. If you're looking for a quarterback in this year's draft and that's what you're banking on, oh boy, that's a very empty aisle that you're shopping on right now from what I've seen in the college football world. There's not a guy out there that you're going to look at and say, which means that the Browns are loving life right now because they have Shedeur Sanders. And think of the trade market that's going to come for Shedeur, who told us this past week that he could play and start for 31 of the 32 teams in the National Football League.
That might be the hottest take we've heard yet.
Yeah.
That's very hot. That's very not sure it's accurate, but it's hot.
Yeah, is the one that he can't start for Cleveland because he's third string?
Apparently, yes. Apparently, that is the one team that he cannot start for because Joe Flacco is too good.
So, would you rather hear from your third string quarterback saying that he could start for every other team in the franchise except for yours, or would you rather hear from your starting quarterback that your team is just bad? I don't know what's a better locker room message.
I never want to hear from my third string quarterback because nothing good is coming when my third string quarterback is talking. Not ever. Challenge you guys to have your listeners, without using the Google machine or an NFL.com roster, to name me 10 actual number 3 quarterbacks in this league. I don't think you can. And if you can, it's because 1 and 2 got hurt, and you're in a world of trouble as a team.
I was just going to say Carson Wentz. That's the one I can get you.
It's amazing to me that there's been this much conversation, and I understand why there is. But my gosh, it's the third string quarterback. I don't know the third string quarterback for teams, and I cover the league. I mean, I have boards that I built to spot for the last 2 games I did that I couldn't tell you right now without looking at them who the number 3 quarterback was on those boards. I just did a game yesterday.
I'm almost positive Nick Mullins is around here somewhere. I know that.
He's got to be. He's got to be. God bless him for that. You know what? Chase Daniel retired, but he made a lot of nice money being that guy for a lot of years.
Oh, Tommy DeVito. Oh, Tommy DeVito's out there. He's floating around. He's making a sub somewhere.
He's ready. He's rested, tanned, and ready to go.
Kevin, when do you find out what you're calling next? You know what's coming up this week already?
I got Detroit. Well, I've got Thursday night on Westwood One this week.
What do we got?
Rams and Niners.
Okay.
Rams Niners on Thursday.
Okay.
Detroit Cincinnati on Sunday, and then we wait and see.
As you're doing your prep for Thursday, how are you feeling about my 49ers? How are we looking?
I like the 49ers. Are they going to get healthy? I mean,
almost never.
As they continue. Yeah, I know. But as they continue to get healthier, I like that team. I love that division, man. I just think every team in that division has a story to tell. Even the Arizona Cardinals, who have offensive woes of their own, but I think they've got stories to tell. I know Seattle does, and haven't seen the Rams firsthand. They're really good. But San Francisco has already 2 divisional wins. They've got a leg up on everybody else. I like those Niners.
That is our guy, Kevin Kugler. Kevin, we appreciate the time and all your expertise as always, and enjoy getting to see my 49ers this week.
You got it, fellas. Take care.